Hi friends, Anna Holub here, your forgiveness expert and counselor, and I'm here today with my son, Aaron Lucas. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah,
Pleasure to be
excited.
here.
And we're going to talk to you today about subtle addictions. What are they? Do you possibly have any, and what can you do about them? So, subtle addictions, what does that really mean? Well, to me, it means that we have these possible places in our minds where maybe we're not having a huge addiction that's really obvious to everyone else, but in our mind and in our heart, we're recycling over and over again thoughts that are detrimental to our health, ways of looking at the world that bring us down, and we don't know how to stop. Right? That's the addiction part of it. We just feel helpless. We don't know how to stop. And so does that make sense to you so far?
Yeah, absolutely. We were really thinking that the subtle addiction piece is probably not well understood around the whole world. And so we were really hoping to bring you some explanation and also some stories about what that means and how people can get over it. And so, yeah, would you like to share with us an example maybe from a client who you have seen go through a subtle addiction transformation?
Yeah, I've seen many people go through transformations using the forgiveness practice that I teach. And one example is a woman that I worked with, and she had a really, really rough childhood. She went through a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse in her family. And so when she grew up, she wasn't with her family anymore. Her parents had passed, she was an adult, and yet she was still holding a lot of that. And one way that it came into her life was that because she had a lot of fears, she would look over her shoulder like this. And she'd be always like checking, who's back there? Who's about to hurt me?
That's scary.
Yeah, well, she was scared inside. And we can have a lot of compassion that, of course, she was scared inside because she went through so much when she was a kid. But here it was, years and years later, and she's still looking over her shoulder because she was expecting to get attacked at any minute. So not only was that hard for her, but it also was socially really uncomfortable because she'd be doing her thing and trying to make connections with people, and yet she'd be like, oh, is there someone back there? And this was a habit. It was a subtle addiction that she had that was stemming from all these fears that she had inside of her own heart and mind. So once she did the forgiveness practice, she had to practice it. You know, this isn't something that we do once. We really need to learn, practice, and do it. But when she did that and she went into her childhood memories and she was able to let go of the intense fears that she had, and the way that she was looking to life and thinking about life in general, then she started to be able to realize, oh, I don't have to keep checking behind me as if there's some monster back there. I don't need to do that anymore. And so she was able to relax that place inside of herself and let go of that subtle addiction of always looking for the monster behind her. You know? And you can imagine how that would really affect her life.
I'm sure that completely changed the way that she was able to show up in the world, and it changed the way that she was able to create relationships. So that's really cool to hear about that. And you were also mentioning a personal example that you had, and I thought that was really powerful. And yeah, hopefully you can share that as well, because I know that it's so powerful to really share these personal examples as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because so I do this work because I know I need it too. And I'm not pretending that I've never had anything go on. So one of the ones that I have worked with, I think it was a subtle addiction. I know it has been. And I feel like I'm in recovery around it now. Is this whole way that I would think about what was going to happen next, or what was going to happen in a year, or what was going to happen in 5 years. And because of past trauma in my own life from my upbringing as a child, I had these fears that because the past was scary and hard, then that meant the future was going to be scary and hard too. And so I kept projecting my mind, and it was really hard for me to think, hey, it's going to be great, because I was thinking, no, it's not. I already know this past history, therefore I should start always like preparing for the worst kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not gonna end up in rehab over that addiction. However, it really affected me a lot. It affected my peace of mind, my quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do some major inner work on that. Like, why am I so scared of the future? I had to get very honest with myself. Like, all right, so what am I thinking? What am I projecting with my mind? Because we also know that our thoughts are super important because they are creative. So if I am creating thoughts about my future in which there's a bunch of fear or possible disaster going on, then first of all, it's not a fun way to live. And it's really difficult to create something from that place. Can you relate to that at all?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, just in you telling that story, I think a lot of people from my generation, being in my last year of college now, are really in a similar place. Maybe they can't connect as much with the past trauma part of it. Plenty of them, of course, do. But just about looking into the future, because right now is a really strange time to be in the job market or the potential job market, and there's so many social constructs that we have as young people to live a life that has a good salary and to live in a certain area maybe, or make your parents proud. That I see in so many of my peers as a subtle addiction to enroll in that class because your parents want you to, or to go interview for that job because your relatives want you to, or you believe it will create this future that you want. And that's absolutely the same for me. You know, we have so many different subtle addictions that I see relating to this desire to go out and get a future, some future, an ideal future, but a lot of it's based on fear. We're taking actions right now that are based in a fear of what's going to happen if we don't chase this ideal future. And you know, I've done a lot of learning from other people that if you only make these decisions in the moment that are based on that fear, it's probably not going to lead you to that end goal that you see, hopefully, in your mind anyway. And so taking a slower step and really being more conscious of these decisions that we're making now has really helped me deal with my own subtle addictions, and talking to my peers about it has given them hopefully some more peace of mind in their decisions and their outlook towards the future. Yes. Does that make sense to you as well from a younger perspective?
Yeah, there's so much world conditioning on who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to turn out, you know, what the future's supposed to look like. And meanwhile, we all know we can't control the future. We just can't. But what we can control is how much we want to heal, the steps we take towards healing. And then when we do this forgiveness work and we're letting go of our past history so that we can open up a whole new space, then from the present moment of now, we can be in touch with that creative connection to all of life. And then the future, wow, the future can be something much more promising, much more hopeful, much more dynamic, because it doesn't have those fears in the way. And that I know from my own experience. It sounds like you've already touched on it also in your young life. And I hope that this makes sense to you. If you have more questions, of course, let me know. But learning about this form of addiction, there are obvious ones, there are substance addictions, there are behavioral addictions, and this is about the subtle addictions that most people are not really talking about. And I dedicate a whole lesson in the addiction recovery and complete healing course to subtle addictions. So you may be suffering from addictions that you know about, but you also may have some subtle ones, or the people around you, the people who you love, may have subtle ones that you are recognizing. And so this forgiveness practice is a great way to begin to heal these places inside of ourselves to make a new and promising future. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. Please click the button so you can learn more, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much, Erin, for being part of this.
Absolutely. Thank you for all your wisdom as well.